we were expecting a very good year in 2020, one of our better years that we were having. And you start, really coming to grip with that, and that you started doing decor, and, that money isn't going to be coming in. It's been tough. I've had to make some really tough choices that have kept me up at night.
Welcome to the Think Splendid YouTube channel. My name is Lynn Stevens, and I'm the founder and CEO of Think Splendid, where we provide business strategy for luxury wedding and hospitality brands. In celebration of 15 years in business, I'm sitting down with 20 wedding industry leaders from around the world to discuss the realities of owning an event business in 2020. These splendid conversations are honest, candid, and authentically optimistic. In this episode, I chat with Renny Pedersen, the founder of Bliss Weddings and Events, a luxury wedding planning company based in Chicago, Illinois. Renny and I talk about how, after 20 years in business, the pandemic has caused her to shift back into a startup mentality, the clarity the past 6 months have brought her, the issues with everything in wedding media looking the same, and finding a talented and trustworthy person to be her company's second in command. Here's our conversation. Enjoy.
You are like my guardian angel, because truly I think back on this all the time, and that you were so spot on in knowing what was going to happen. You really saw this. Instead of like everybody else was just kind of like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to, be fine. It's going to blow over. And this isn't going to be anything, but you're like, no, it's not. It's not going to be fine. Like this is something that's going to affect everybody. And this is going to stay around for a while. And you were so right, because I pulled so many, I felt so much more prepared than a lot of people, and with our clients and with our next steps and what we were going to do. And I got all of my planners to get backup dates way earlier than most people. And people were just saying, no, we're going to stick it out. It's going to be fine. And I just kept saying, it's not going to be fine. This is happening. This is going to happen. And we have to have a plan B immediately and a plan C.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Seriously.
Oh, well, I just feel like that's my job, is to tell the truth as much as I know it. Obviously I don't have a crystal ball or anything, but I know the nature of diseases, and I know the nature of, I did think we'd be further along by now, but that has more to do with issues with leadership than whatever else,
Yeah. Well, you really, but if I hadn't have talked to you, if I didn't know you, and if I kind of become in a little bubble, I kind of go in my world and I stay in this little bubble. And if I hadn't have talked to you, honestly, I would not have, I don't know if I would have taken this all so seriously. I just wouldn't have known. I'm just so prone to look beyond things, and look to the positive side of things and say, okay, we're going to figure this out. We'll figure it out. But you forced me and my business, to look at things and deal with it and come up with a solution before it got too late. So anyway, thank you. You were brilliant. Of course.
Thanks. I think at the beginning, I sort of got, some people were glad for the work I do, and then others were like, it made people mad. Like it made some people mad because they felt it was too Debbie Downer-ish. And I was trying really hard not to be negative about it, but just that authentic optimism of, it will be fine if we prepare ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us how you got into the industry and what you did pre-weddings and all of that?
This is my 20th year in business. I got into this because long time ago, my mom is an interior designer, and she had her own business. And so growing up, she always was able to be home, and she had a creative business, and I would go and help her pull, different fabric samples. And she'd say, okay, I'm looking for a stripe and this color family. And I'd go into the showroom when there used to be actual showrooms, and I would go and find and help her. And I just loved it. And I just always knew there was always something in the back of my head that I knew that I wanted my own business, I guess, because my mom was such a big role model to me, and I just wanted something of my own. I guess because I never saw anything else. Actually, she didn't have like a normal, like, 9 to 5 type job where she was gone. She was always there, and we'd have to answer the phone. Davis Garner Smith residence. This is Renny speaking, or because it was my mom's business, and there was one line, and it was just something that we just grew up in. That the business was at home, and she was able to be there for us. So then, when I went to school, I went into I didn't even know you could go into event planning. And a girlfriend of mine at a different school said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be an event planner." I'm like, "You can be an event planner? That's something you can be." And so I actually finished my degree, and then I went to school for hospitality management, to a culinary school, and I did that for 2 years. And I just loved it. But I did more of the hospitality side. And so I started in catering. It's really my background is just food service and catering. And I learned, how to do an event for 20 people at somebody's home to 10,000 people at like a big convention center. So I got my feet wet there, and then I moved to Chicago, and I started working for a big event planning a catering company here. And then I got to know all the venues and vendors, and then I worked for somebody pulled me, somebody that I had met through some sort of industry event, said, "You should come work on the event planning side." And, I thought that I had won the lottery, because it's what I always had wanted to do. And so I worked for a big event planning company here and did all different types of corporate events. And then I moved to I met somebody else, and then they had me move over to another company, a bigger company. And then I just knew in the back of my head always that I wanted this. I wanted my own business. And I knew whatever I was doing, I had to work and try to get to the point of having my own business. So I would do anything, literally. I would work on the if somebody, this company I worked for, they produced events. We did commercial, big, like rolling commercial events. Like if, Coca-Cola was doing an event in 7 different, states, they would have people that would travel and help with that. I did all the destination management. Anyway, I just kind of worked wherever anybody needed me to. And then eventually got to the point where I knew I wanted to do weddings. And I started on the side because it wasn't a conflict of interest. And then it just grew from there. And then my company that I was working for went under. And so it just happened that I got let go. And I had already started Bliss, and I was forced to go out on my own. And so that's what I did. And, when I really started the business, when actual people were calling me, not just my friends of friends that were, "Oh, can you come help with my wedding?" It was actual people calling. It's still hard to believe, honestly. It's still, I feel like this is, so fun. And what I get to do every day is so much fun that I still, my friends, have to shake me sometimes and say, you haven't actually, this is really happening. Because I just love what I do every day. So, but that's how I got started in the business, and it's just grown from there and had gone through many different cycles. Let me tell you, we've been all over the place.
Yeah. This is your 20th year. So you started around the tech bubble 2001 recession, and then survived 2008. And now here we are in 2020.
Here we are. We've been through a lot. We've been through the recession. We went through 9/11. I mean, just been a roller coaster, really. It's just been, when I sit this year, I've been, of course, we're all in this like reflecting phase. I'm, definitely have gone through a big stage of reflection, and just thinking back of all the things that this little business of mine, what we've seen and what we've gone through and what we've come out of, and how did we adjust? How did we pivot? What did we do differently? What worked? What didn't work? It's really kind of come to this big boiling point of, what do you want? After 20 years of doing this, what do we want our business to be? So it's been a blessing, honestly. I mean, it's a horrible thing. And I know so many people are having to close their businesses, and I'm not shedding any, I understand that. And I take it really seriously, but I've tried to see some sort of light in this and some sort of good side of this. And it's just the reflect, being able to reflect and being able to really hone in on what it is that we want and who we are. We're such on the mouse wheel that I could never catch up because I couldn't ever really think about it. I was just trying to keep up with everybody else. I was trying to do what everybody else was doing instead of really sitting down and thinking about what is it that I wanted. So I've tried to have some sort of silver lining and see some sort of silver lining.
What's been the impact of COVID for you in your business?
At first, it was devastating. It was shocking. We were all just scrambling to, understand what was happening. And yeah, we didn't have any cancellations, thank God. But you start moving all your clients to 2021. We didn't keep anybody in 2020. Because of you, honestly, I just said no. There's no trying to reschedule to 2020 later in 2020. Just everybody's moving to 2021 period. And as far into the year as possible. So when you start seeing everybody moving, and then, we were expecting a very good year in 2020, one of our better years that we were having. And you start, really coming to grip with that. And that we started doing decor and, that money isn't going to be coming in. It's been tough. I've had to make some really tough choices that have kept me up at night. That it hasn't been good. I have a studio, I have a space, and I've had to really decide, what am I doing? Do I need that? Can I afford it? Is this going to come back? Is it going to come back for 2021? What if it doesn't come back? What if it does come back and we have, 30 events that we're having to produce? What are we going to do? So it's just been, I think now though, that was then. I tried to get on every Zoom call. I tried to listen to everything possible. That's all I did to fill my time. And for me, I got to a point where I just wasn't hearing great solutions. I just kept hearing the same thing. I felt like I was just, and Groundhog's Day, it was just the same thing over and over again that I was hearing. I just wasn't hearing any great solutions or any great innovation. So I just had to kind of stop doing that. We did try to help. We were, trying to figure out something to do to help. So Jesse on our team, his sister is a nurse, and she got COVID and was directly affected. And so he was trying to figure out something to do. And actually after the Ed Libby table, scape challenge, Jesse set up this beautiful table, and he decided to donate the flowers to a local hospital where his friend was a nurse. And so we just kind of said, what else can we do? And so we actually we called it a little burst of bliss. And we talked to our flower purveyors, and there's always boxes of flowers that can't be sold due to broken stems or mold or who knows what. They can't sell those boxes that come in. So we just said, can we have that? Can we have any of those flowers? And we'll go through them. Anything that you are going to throw out, and we'll go through them and put them and make little arrangements and drop them off to the hospital. And so we hooked up with Advocate here, and we were able to do that, which was great. It was a great, how do we have, something that we can do to make other people feel good. And we saw, nurses' faces and smiling, and people were saying we need some sort of pickup. This has been great. So, something that we can do is arrange flowers and, give it to people. So it was a nice, it was a nice way to keep us busy, I guess, so that we weren't just sitting kind of stewing. So that happened. And then we got the call that they didn't need that flowers anymore. They didn't need that service, which was amazing to hear that. So it's been interesting for me personally. And for my business, we have been able to get by. We're not going to have to close. We had to downsize. I had to get rid of a lot. I had to get rid of an accounting company that I adore, that I've worked with for years. I have had to let go of my space. I might still, I'm not 100% sure because things have changed a little bit for us, but I've literally let go of anything and everything that I could to keep, any money coming in to pay for either, to keep employees around or to be able to pay myself something. It's been a roller coaster. And now we have had, fortunately, we've had quite a few clients that are booking us that are coming around that 2021 and 2022, which has been great. So we're seeing some income coming in. We're seeing some sort of, at least we're working, we're busy, we're looking for venues for people. We're starting design, trying to design again. We have a wedding next weekend where it's just a small backyard wedding, and then they're celebrating next year. But that's going to be a big project for us. So, and I just, talked to Jesse, and he's like, can you help do this, this, and this? It's interesting what you can accomplish on, just such a small team, instead of like, usually we'd be involving a lot more people, and it's literally 3 of us that are going to make this happen, which is good. So we're starting to see there feels like there's a light right now, and we are at least busier day to day, but it certainly has, been tough, and it's hard giving up things that you love and people that you love, and services that you felt like you needed to survive. But we really don't. There's a lot that I can do, and that you have to force yourself back to, pull up your bootstraps and get back in there and do whatever it takes.
I feel like a lot of people are back in the startup mode mentality of,
oh, that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Your job description is everything, right? Like you're doing everything now. It's not, you don't get to segregate yourself off and only do the things you love. And hopefully you'll be able to delegate all that again someday. But for now, survival means just doing the stuff you don't like to do, I think.
Yeah, I know. And I actually like it. It brings you back to 20 years ago when, you have to be scrappy again. You have to really have a touch point with people more than ever. And I just talked to a new client today. They had some questions about an agreement. And just to be able to say, I'm here, it's not like I haven't ever been there, but to be able to have that extra set of touch point that I can, to be able to say that, to be able to have been able to hone in on who we are I have so much clarity, so much more clarity than I've ever had in 20 years of business. It's taken this to, kind of jolt me into a real clear path going forward, if we can't go forward, but whatever that is, we at least have some sort of clear direction. And that, I guess that is, it kind of gets you back to that startup of who are you? Why are you doing this? Like, what do you want? What is important to you? Because all of our time is so valuable, and we've all taken advantage of over the years of being busy, 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 and thinking that it's just always going to be like that we maybe have missed some of our qualities that made us or special or got us into this business, or why do we work with people? Why do we want to help them? Why do we want to go through this process? And I mean, what is it, the outcome for us? Because it's not just, our client hiring us, it's us working with them just as much is important to us. It's not just about, the volume and just client after client after client. It's more about, I need to feel the same way. I need to have this connection with you as well. So it's really brought us back to grassroots of, of who we are. And it's made me really reflective of, I remember when I first started, and 20 years, it was really longer than that when I first started doing weddings, but I've always said over the years, that what sets us apart is that, 20 years ago, I remember being in my friends' weddings and, attending different events, and wedding planners would be screaming and yelling and ordering people around. no, you have to put the cake here. And no, the floor plan has to look like this. You can't possibly set it up any differently. It has to be this way, and this is the timeline and this is how it has to work. And when I started, I would say, but why? Like, why do we have to do it that way? Why can't we do it another way? Like, I think we can do it this other way and it's going to work great. And shaking up those rules and making it so personal and having that really personalized experience of, if the client doesn't want cake, why should they have to have cake? Who cares? Like, there shouldn't have to be all these rules. And that's really where like over the years, we of course that's who we are, and we want it to be about it's always only about the client. It's not about us or the wedding that we've done, or the event that we've, to make it easy. It's truly about understanding who they are, what makes them tick, what is their story. But it's just made me like, I can't believe that that's like where I started saying, of course you can do that, and of course you should have it the way that you want it. And now, after we've really sat on this for a while and come back into this reflective state, it's exactly who we are. And I kind of lost a little bit of that along the way. I guess my point is, just being in business 20 years, we've tried all these different ways of doing things. We've tried to do day of planning. We've tried to do partial planning. I started this other little side company and tried all these different things. And, after I've had to go through all that just to come back to where I was in the very beginning, I guess, is just the irony.
I think that's so important with owning a business that isn't necessarily scaled to include a ton of other people.
Yes.
Like, you're not an agency model, so you don't have 50 planners going out and doing things. I think that's a different model and requires different branding and different sales tactics. But if it's you and your few core people, then there is a lot of clarity, I find, in this is who we are, and you'll be working with me. And if you hate everything that's coming out of my mouth and every opinion that's coming out of my mouth, like, we shouldn't work together, and no hard feelings on my end, because I'm not going to shrink back because of that. And I think there's a time where I would have, right? And now it's either a deal breaker for you or it's not. And if it is, like, no hard feelings, there are other great people who either believe what you do or will keep it to themselves. But I'm never going to keep it to myself. And you know me, like, within 5 minutes, you're going to know what I think on accident. It's just going to come out.
But that's the part that's what's so great about you. Like, why would somebody want it if they weren't ready for that, to hear from somebody else? I don't want you to sugarcoat it. That's the last thing that I would want, is for, if I was talking to you as a consultant or as a, somebody to help me, I don't want the sugarcoating. I'm ready to, like, here, give it to me,
Yeah. That's why I like working with wedding industry leaders, because I feel like they're at a point in their business where they don't want you to tell them what they want to hear. And those people tend to hire other consultants, because that's not going to be me. I feel like that would be a waste of money.
Yeah, totally. I love that about you. I love how real you are.
Thanks.
It's so refreshing. I'm not kidding. I'm so glad you're doing this, because I'm just so I think you know me. I'm just so tired of all the fluff and all the smoke and mirrors,
Yeah. A lot of people are. And that's really one of the core reasons behind this series, is one, to help people feel less alone, because a lot of people have contacted me and said, I feel like I'm missing something. Everyone seems to be figuring this out way better than I am. I'm like, but they're not, because they're also calling me. So it's, and I think people are just fearful of letting down their guard, or the fact that it is even more competitive now, or there's the perception that it's more competitive now because business is down. And at the same time, I think some people have gone to the extreme and just laid it all out there online. And I'm like, you need to have some boundaries. right?
Yeah.
Like you need to keep a few things need to be kept for your journal and your therapist. Do you do a lot of NDA work where you have to sign a confidentiality agreement?
We have a fair amount. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Can you talk a little bit about that? And Joy Proctor also talked a little bit about this, because I feel one of the things that we're going to see is more luxury and high-end clients who are spending a lot of money requiring NDAs, at least for the next 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the world is still going to be in an economic downturn and in a recession, and they are not going to want it to get out that they're spending this
Publicize,
much.
like, oh, I spent all this money kind of thing.
Yeah, or look how over the top this went. And,
Uh-huh.
just people trying to avoid that let them eat cake mentality. For people watching who maybe don't have experience with NDAs and who rely on every single event as a marketing piece, can you talk a little bit about how your company handles them and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have. We had we had several for coming up for 2020 that have been rescheduled or postponed indefinitely. I mean, it is a tricky thing, and you can't post, you can't show your photos, you can't use that in your marketing. So that is important, though, right? Like I would think, people that know that we are very sensitive to NDAs, and meaning that we take them very seriously, and we're not, I mean, we just went back and forth with a client, and whatever it is what it is. It's just it's what it is, and they whatever our clients need us to do, if we can't ever show that photo again, we just have to know that we did that, and that we can do that, and to be able to show people that you can be exclusive. That's what from what I have seen, that's what they're looking for. you know they just need to know that you're not going to splash it all over an Instagram, and say, like, ostentatious, look at us, look at what we were able to do. It's not really it's something that's easy for us, because that's not really our, being that way, showing how, trying to splash around money and what people spend is not our thing. It's not our client, honestly. So that makes it a little easier. Our clients just aren't those people. They don't they could have all the money in the world, but that's not the kind of event that we would design or plan for them. So, I mean, I just talked to somebody that we're meeting with at their estate home, and they've already said that. So it's really interesting. I didn't really put that together, that is why, but now it is. They're not like a celebrity or anything like that. It's just that I'm pretty sure they don't want to have their photos of their wedding during this time. People are really sensitive about that.
Yeah.
So I didn't really put that together until you just said, I mean, hello, duh. But that's, I can see that being really important. And how do you do that? And how do you still have a Instagram presence? You just have to be able to use photos, or what we've been doing too is trying to highlight other people who have done really great things, and trying to, you know, have relationships that way of other planners or other designers, and just showcase their work as well, if we can't show our work. I don't know, does that help?
No, I think it's not, no. I think it's good. Yeah, I just think that at the luxury level, everyone who works on the luxury end has had at least one NDA client, right? Like
Oh yeah,
everyone.
for sure.
And a lot of people who, this was the year they were poised to move into it, or they moved into it in the last couple of years, like moved up into these budgets, they haven't run into that, and they're going to. And I
Yeah,
don't think they're prepared on how to handle it, right? Like, I don't.
because they're so excited, they get this big job, and because that's what everybody wants, right? Like, look at me, look at what we're doing. Is that what you mean?
I mean that their marketing is entirely dependent on every wedding being a portfolio wedding. or their
Oh,
marketing is so dependent on behind the scenes Instagram stories on the day of, or, sometimes it is that big name and you don't get to say that you did work for them, whether they're a celebrity or just a key name that your other clients would know. That would be great third party validation. And I do think the nice thing about NDAs is that, in my view, if you're going to sign an NDA, then they need to pay you. Like, there's no discounts. Discounts are in exchange for publicity, in my opinion. Like, it has to be a win-win exchange.
mm-hmm.
So, not that people aren't going to try and negotiate harder, but I think some people it's just never occurred to them that that's going to.
I mean, it
that
just
people do that, right?
I guess so. And I think that's true. I think some people are reliant on like their big, big, big events. But we have such a big, I mean, the corporate client that we work with so much, I mean, we always have to, there's always been an NDA. And for a client that we were just doing a big event for this year, I mean, we signed an NDA. I mean, it's just not, it's just something that, and we have our collection that say, on our Dropbox and everywhere else, do not post, do not share. I mean, they're there. We may have some of the imagery, but they can, it's very clear that anybody that comes and works for us, cannot use these photos ever. So it's just part of doing business. If you're wanting to get into that level, then you have to be able to respect people's wants and needs and your clients. And if that's important to them, then that's got to be important to you too.
I agree.
But you are sacrificing, right? You are giving up. Like you said, you don't get to use that, but hopefully, there'll be something else, they'll have it. I mean, hopefully you can have a mix. I mean, I think if you're just doing celebrity events and that's it, or if it is a celebrity or not a celebrity and you're just doing NDAs, that may get to be a bit of a problem, because then what material are you going to use? But again, I've been trying to, it's not like we don't have material to use, but still be able to highlight other people and showcase other work and have some, I don't know. I just feel like this industry, and maybe it's just us here, but I would love to see more people coming together to be a more even playing field. I don't know. I don't know if we want to get into all that, but it's a whole nother story.
I would love to get into that, because I do think a lot of people are feeling that. I think people are feeling, everyone uses the hashtag community over competition that Natalie Frank started that movement, and it's valid and it's a valuable thing, but putting it on Instagram and then living it out in their business practices doesn't always line up.
Wait, who's this?
The community over competition hashtag.
Oh, I don't know about that. So okay, I'm in the dark. I'm in the dark over here. I'm in my little bubble.
There was a wedding photographer named Natalie Frank, and she started this hashtag called community over competition.
Okay.
And started her photography business while she was in college. Then she started Rising Tide Society, and then Honeybook bought them because this community had grown. This community over competition, Rising Tide Society had grown. Okay. It's mostly, everyone uses the hashtag, but the majority of it are sort of those younger classes of wedding pros, like some, I would say like 10 years or less in the business. So some of them are really talented, and it's just they felt excluded.
So they're saying community over competition, meaning like they are all one, they're all charging kind of a similar price point.
No, they are saying it like we can be friends. These aren't like deep, like CIA secrets on how you told a client no nicely. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not, and there are some trade secrets that people still protect, but it's very much just more of that. And I feel like they think they were the first to do that, and they weren't, and okay. I mean, I remember Richard Carbati saying that's why he loved the special event in like the 70s, was because people were more open. Like if he went to the special event, he met all these people open about stuff, and they had that friend group. I think it's more just people. I think people are frustrated by what's called community and is really clicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I heard all this stuff, like, right, on all these Zoom calls, and all these people were like, the industry's changing, and, it's not going to be the same. And we can't do the same things that we used to do. And, how people charge crazy, crazy amounts, and, or take commissions, or, it's just all over the place. I feel like it's just a big, unregulated, it's just like the Wild West. People just do whatever they want, right? However they're going to get business, they do it, and however they want it. It just makes me. It's always made me crazy, but it's especially made me crazy. Thinking that people can get away with charging. 30%, really? Like, who needs who? Why is somebody paying somebody 30%? I don't know. And then they're paying somebody else $5,000. And if you look at, I'm sure they're talented. I'm sure they're great, but there's just no rule. There's no rules. And this other person's taking a 40% commission from a florist. And this person is, charging another crazy percentage. It just feels like there's no rhyme, or there's no regulation of, I don't know. I just, like, at least realtors, you kind of know, right? Like, you go in, you're going to spend between 2 and 5%, right? Like, if you want somebody to sell your house, if you're going to buy a house, you just know that is part of the deal. It's part of the deal, and you have to have it. So Chicago is just another level of, oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm talking about all this, like, on, but it's like another level, right? They're known for it. It's the corrupt, kind of city of how things really operate here. And I just wish that it was more about, definitely skill set for sure is important. The same person that's coming out of college can't charge the same amount that somebody's been in business for a long time. And because it is about experience, a lot of what this is experience. And how do you handle it? How do you take it? And how do you process it? How do you process these experiences? And how do you work with people? And how do you make yourself so that you can be, stay calm? It's not for everybody, right? This business certainly isn't for everybody, but I just wish that there was something that it was based on, there was more standard, there was not so much gouging. That anyway, we've just, as a company, decided to just move forward in a way that's very transparent. And again, we're not, it's not going to be for everybody. People aren't going to understand it. We're going to come across probably more expensive, but I just wish that there was a more even, I don't know. I honestly don't even know. I don't even know what the answer is. Like, I don't even know how to exactly say it, but it's just frustrating to me that, if somebody gets a celebrity client and then they get picked up, or because they have X, or because they're charging somebody X, then they get to be part of this elite group, which that frustrates me too. I just feel like there's no in between, and you're either on like one side or the other, and there's very little in between. So it's just frustrating.
I think community has always existed in the wedding industry. I think the cliques have always existed. I think social media has amplified both. And at the same time, when it amplifies community, you can find like-minded people. You can find people who want to do business with similar values. You can find people who you want to be genuine friends with, but it also amplifies the cliques. And a lot of people do end up feeling left out, or that the same opportunities go to the same few people over and over again. And
yeah, that's the part of it that I have a hard time with. I don't mind, cliques are, people make friendships, right? Like, we all do the same thing. So that's going to happen. That's natural. That's something that I feel like is going to happen, but it's the opportunities of the writers and the different magazines and the blogs that just constantly are going to West Coast planners and East Coast. It just doesn't seem like it's a fair playing field to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that too is just, And I hope that maybe some of the things that happened this summer, like, truly caused editors and publishers to sit back and say, oh, we haven't been paying attention at the level we should. We just
Yeah.
depend on Instagram hashtags and conferences to tell us who the players are, when a lot of the legit people have that NDA work and they're not the stars on Instagram. They're not on stage at all these conferences, and they could buy and sell all the people on stage several times over a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
a lot of the most financially successful people in the industry, and this is global, not just in the US,
Sure.
aren't at these conferences, any of them, by choice and by the editors and producers just not paying attention. And so I think it tends to be that path of least resistance, and that they're also busy and sort of on that mouse wheel. And then I think this summer, hopefully things were like, oh, we weren't paying attention. And I'm glad that all these places are highlighting Black wedding professionals. And at the same time, South Asian wedding professionals still underrepresented, Native American wedding professionals still underrepresented. So it's not a course correction if you're only doing what's in the headlines at the moment.
Right.
If that makes sense. And then again, there's so much that people can learn from these truly successful event industry pros who aren't being invited to speak or teach or be on these Zoom webinars and all of that. And I think it does a big disservice. Like, if you're going to say you have the best, then you need to do the work and find out who the best are.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And that's not to discredit the people who are participating. I make part of my living as a speaker, and
Of course.
I think I'm good. I think what I have to offer is valuable. But there are other people too who are just as valuable that aren't at these conferences. So
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's been interesting, definitely after this summer, to see, like, every now cover of every magazine, and everybody's just like trying to make up for all this lost time. But it's going to take an awful lot more to make sure that, everybody is really represented in the way that they should be. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't see even then it's still what fits under the traditional Western wedding traditions, right? It's still the bride in a white dress or the groom, or it's become less heteronormative over the years, which is progress. And I don't want to take away from that, but there hasn't been a cover of a Korean couple, or even an interracial couple where one person is Korean, but they're wearing the hanbok, right? Like, those traditions aren't represented either. And I know they have to sell on newsstands, but at the same time, if the representation's not there, it's not going to sell, because the people having a wedding that is not a Judeo-Christian looking wedding aren't going to buy that magazine. They're not going to pick it up.
Yeah. And I mean, on a different level, I mean, not to shadow or not to misrepresent, what you're saying by any means, but just for us being in the Midwest, and, because I feel like, I had to stop following because I couldn't take it anymore. Like, every wedding is outside. Every wedding has perfect lighting. Every wedding is gorgeous under some big oak tree, right? Like, amazing. Yes, gorgeous. But, the weddings that we're doing here, they're all, they're inside, they're in ballrooms, they're in hotels, they're in, environments that are the real reality of what most of the country has to deal with. We don't all live in San Diego, where everything is perfect all the time and the weather's perfect. And it's frustrating to see that we just are looked over, just this part of the country has just been constantly looked over, because we have to have things inside, so it's not, that's a whole different side of it, but it's just, they have to be able to, there are still people that are having weddings that aren't outside, that look like the perfect white couple, outside, blonde and, perfect, right? There's all different types of people getting married in all parts of the country. And I just feel like there should be more representation, period, and as a whole.
I agree. I think that's hard too, with not even what the couple looks like or what the vendors look like who are being published and featured and getting a chance to have their work seen, but just the wedding itself, its cultural norms, not just from nationalities, but like you said, where you live.
Yeah.
A winter wedding in Chicago is not going to be outside.
No.
A summer wedding in Phoenix is not going to be outside.
Yeah, right.
Not
right.
happening. And, and even within bridal media or when they pitch to mainstream media, it's always, June through October is wedding season. I'm like, yeah, for the north half of the country, for everyone in the southern states and Southern California all the way to Southern Florida, winter is the main wedding season. Everyone's like slammed in December, January, February. January is gorgeous in a lot of those places. And, there's a reason spring training is held in the southern states. There's a reason that all these professional athletes have their second homes, in warm weather states. So even then it's, June and October are still the busiest months to get married in. Like those are the two most popular. But February down in the lower portion of the country is very popular.
Very popular, right. And we say here, let's have a wedding in February, let's do it. Why not? Why does it have to be like that? I don't know. I'm just tired of everything having to be a certain way. I just hope that people, look at things differently and want to do things differently and see, and the industry becomes more inclusive on a very big level. But yes, all those things for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your team a little bit and how I feel like Jesse has a lot of talents that, not that you don't have them, but his strengths complement yours and vice versa. And can you talk a little bit about that and how you, I guess, not found him, but I feel like the people who are in that second position at a company, so to speak, have that. Like they have strengths that complement the main owners or the main creative directors. And it sometimes takes a long time to find that person. Mm-hmm. And then if they leave, it's like, please don't leave. I will pay you whatever you want because it's going to take me a long time to find someone just as good. Right? Yeah. Like, can you talk a little bit about that process or?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of really honestly, it was a gift, truly. I wasn't looking for that. And where we were with the company, we were just looking to grow planners and have more planners. I've never called myself a designer, even though I grew up in that world, and I certainly can, put something together, and I can say that a linen looks pretty with something, or I can definitely, I definitely have visions and have that, but I'm never going to call myself a designer. And so when Jesse came along, I had worked with him on the other side. So I took clients to him, and the companies that he worked for were big event design companies. And so he would produce the weddings. He would be the designer and produce the weddings. And we just always had like a great rapport, and we were friends. And I think Jesse, kind of sought me out, honestly. He was tired of doing 100 events a year and just spitting them out and never being able to have a say in how it started. He could only, help determine what it looked like when it ended. So he was, struggling with like, okay, well, this planner, he'd be working with lots of different planners in the city. And, everybody would bring him a client a little bit differently. Some he would have to do more work for. Some would have no information on the client, and they would just show up and Jesse would have to do all the work. And I think it just got to him, again, just being in this constant, he never had a weekend off. He never even really got to enjoy the process because he was just designing, just nonstop and producing. And so I worked with him. I just had a different approach. I really believed in getting to know my client ahead of time and understanding who they are and doing a lot of that homework so that if I took a client to a designer, they would know everything before they walked in the door. They would know everything about them. And I would have a call with the designer ahead of time if I needed to share other information, if there's anything private, if there's anything off the table, I don't know, whatever it is, I would do all that work ahead of time and give it to them in a lovely little package. And I think he just liked the way that the type of client that I would bring him. Number one, my clients have always just been really down to earth. And I don't know if that's a reflection of, right, like you're friends with, kind of people that are similar to you. But I just didn't have those diva clients or people that want ostentatious, more and more and more. And so it just was a good fit. He came to me and just said, would you be interested in having me come work for you? And I knew that he could do it because he's the most detailed person I've ever met in my life. And he's one of the most talented in a way that there's nobody else that I've met that can really truly listen the way that he does and be able to write that recipe in a way that just truly just blows people away. I mean, people don't change a thing, they may change a pillow, but it just was a special experience. So I knew that there would be some training and you have to figure out the planning side of things, or something. He didn't know about transportation and about, like invitations and things like that. So there was definitely a learning curve, but we just really do. We've been able to, he compliments me. I mean, he's extremely traditional, almost way more traditional than I am, in many ways. And so it's been fun to have just to have a feminine point of view, I guess, on some things versus a more masculine way of thinking. He's a very technical kind of guy. He grew up on a farm. And so he has that very mechanical way of thinking as well. And I don't. So I'm more free thinking, more free spirited, which is not, it's just been a nice compliment to be able to have somebody that I can trust. He doesn't, and I mean, I'm sure he'd be the first to say this, but he doesn't want to do the business side. He doesn't want to do the account. That's not it. He would have been long gone by now if he wanted to do that. And so I've been really lucky because I know not everybody's in that situation. He wants to do what he's the best at and he knows who he is. And it's been a really great fit. I mean, it just has worked. And we've had a couple, times that it hasn't worked, but it's funny, like on events, there was one time we were doing this event in South Carolina and everything, it was right after one of the Hurricane Matthew, and the whole island had shut down. And we had this massive weekend long, we had probably 7 events we were producing ourselves, and anything that could go wrong truly went wrong. Like everything. None of our stuff came in. The buckets that we ordered at Home Depot all had holes in the bottom. They all had holes in the bottom. Buckets. Like the crooner, the guy that was supposed to be like the Harry Connick or the Frank Sinatra guy, like the crooner at this event, he quit the morning of. I'm like, all right, do you sing? Like, I mean, everything was coming to me. The chairs were all completely a disaster. And I made them take them back and have them painted and touched up before they brought them back. Literally, I mean, I could go on and on. We ran out of crinkle paper that we were supposed to put in our welcome boxes. And so we were on this island. There's no way to, it takes them 2 hours to go back and forth and get stuff. And so, we had to go down to like the Walgreens and I said, go buy some copy paper. We're going to crumple it up and put it in the bottle. We had to come up with thing after thing after thing. And we ran out of we'd ordered this special ribbon, this beautiful grosgrain striped ribbon that we had to have shipped from like Switzerland. I don't know, like somewhere. And we couldn't get any more. And one of the gals, one of our assistants cut the ribbon wrong, and she measured it wrong. And she was like she was like a young, it's somebody we had brought, and she was like a new young girl, and she cut it all too long. And so then we ran out of ribbon. And so Jessie is, I almost like, and I'm pretty good at going to plan B. I've learned, it's just something I've learned to do pretty well over the years. But at that point, I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And Jessie said, well, we're just going to staple the ribbon together. Just going to all these pieces staple. These people are spending a fortune to come to this thing, and this box alone costs $300, and we're stapling ribbon, grosgrain ribbon together and wrapping it up and driving it off to their villa. And, but he's, it's just like, it's nice to have that. We just have a nice balance of each other, and we always have, and it's fun. It's just been such a fun experience. And now that he has that ability to be a designer, he knows like what something costs. He knows what a bag of Smilex costs. He knows how to grit out a ceiling somewhere. I don't know how to do, that's not something that I've ever had to have the skill for. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to cost that out. I don't truly know what one strand of hydrangea costs. So to be able to have him on our team and to be able to help that way and be able to give clients that true, because he will fight tooth and nail some people in our industry until they give him the cost that he feels the client deserves. And if they're marking it up too much, he will literally, until he wins, he will fight for it. So it's a special skill set that we've been lucky to have. And now that he can do that, we can do some of the decor, we can do some of the floral in-house, which has been a fun new level for us. And it's a new adventure.
What are you most looking forward to?
Just honestly, hugging people and being able to, walk into a room, walk into an event, walk into a venue that you've worked with and see work, have that camaraderie, be able to talk to vendors that we love and that we admire so much, and be able to talk to a guest and be able to help them, be able to like lean down and ask them, questions, and be able to be that service that we provide, and that energy that you get in a room when you walk in and you spent a year working on a project and you get to come in and see this happen, and the excitement and all the different people in one room at one time, and turning a room in an hour, and making it spectacular. That kind of energy and that kind of excitement is, what I feel like will be the most excited about getting back to, and just seeing people smile again and talk, and, being able to enjoy the process and just appreciate. I feel like everybody's going to be so appreciative, people are just going to be so appreciative to, to be able to do what we do.